So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Higher Practice Paper Set 2 Paper 3, which is the calculator paper. Now we'll include a link to the paper in the description below, along with some suggested grade boundaries. Once you've completed the paper, you've marked it, you can see what grade you would have attained. So let's get started on this AQA GCSE Maths Higher Practice Paper Set 2 Paper 3, which is a calculator paper. So looking at question 1, which involves indices, it says simplify x to the power 5 squared. So this is basically x to the power 5 times x to the power 5, in which we add the powers, giving us our correct answer, which is our third option. Now in the next question it then says, what is the sum of exterior angles if any polygon? Circle your answer. Well, that one's just a math fact, and that's going to be 360. For question 3, it says the bearing of B from A is 70 degrees. Circle the bearing of A from B. So if we just simply extend this out, then this angle here is going to be 70 because it's a corresponding angle, and this is the angle that we are then wanting. So this angle here is going to be 70 plus 180, and 70 plus 180 is going to be 250. Then looking at question 4, it says y equals 5 root x divided by 2, and says circle the expression of y squared. So here what we want to do is square everything that we can see in this. So 5 squared is 25, the square of root x is just x, and the square of 2 is 4, which gives us our first option. Then with question 5, it says Paul won a race with a time of 71.3 seconds. This time t to the nearest tenth of a second. Complete the error interval due to rounding. So here we've got a tenth. If we divide that by 2, we get 0.05, and so that's what we're wanting to add to 71.3. So if we do that, what do we get? Well, we get 71.25 and 71.35. Then moving on to our next question, it says these two right angle triangles are similar. It says write down the value of tan x, give your answer as a fraction. So here we've got tan x equals opposite over adjacent. So this is our opposite, this is our adjacent, so it's going to be 3 over 4. It then says work out the value of y. So to work out the value of y, what we need to first of all is work out the scale factor between the two similar triangles. So using the two corresponding sides we know, which is 6 and 4, we know that the scale factor is 3 over 2. So therefore, to work out what y is, it's going to be 3 over 2 multiplied by 3, which gives us an answer of 9 over 2. Or you can write it as 4.5. Or you can write it as a mixed number. Now looking at question 7, it says at a nursery the mean age of 4 children is 31 months. Katie joins the nursery. The mean age of all 5 children is now 30 months. Calculate the age of Katie. So for this, what we need to do first is collectively work out the total number of months. So the total number of months is going to be 4 times 31, which gives me an answer of 124. Then what it is now, so it's going to be, so now it's 5 times 30, which is 150. So what Katie's age is going to be the difference between these. So Katie's age is going to be 150 minus 124, which gives me an answer of 26 months. Then moving on to question 8, it says that John chooses a number at random from the digits of 1 to 4. Matt also chooses a number at random from the digits of 1 to 4. Write down the probability that the sum of the two numbers chosen is a 2-digit number. Well, if you're adding the two numbers, the biggest numbers you can have are 4 and 4, which is 8, and that's not a 2-digit number, so it's impossible for you to get a 2-digit number when you're adding the numbers. And for question 8b, it says work out the probability that the product of the two numbers chosen is a 2-digit number. So for this, if we draw a sample space diagram, it may make a little bit of sense in terms of where the numbers are coming from. So here we are multiplying, so this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, then 4, 6, 8, and then 6, 9, and 12 and 8, 12 and 16. So how many of these are 2-digit numbers? Well, we've got 3 out of 16. So the probability of a 2-digit number is going to be 3 over 16. Let me just draw a line there. And can that be simplified? No, it can't. So that there is our final answer. Then moving on to question 9, it says that the area of an ellipse with width A and height B is given by, and we've got the formula of pi AB over 4. It says a rectangular photograph measures 15 centimeters by 10 centimeters. It is put into a frame as shown. And says the part of the photograph can be seen is an ellipse. Work out the percentage of the photo that can be seen. So what we're wanting to do is basically work out the percentage of the shaded area. So that's what this question's actually looking for. So first of all, let's work out the area of the rectangle, which is going to be 15 times 10, which is 150 centimeters squared. Then if we work out the area of the ellipse, and that's going to be pi times 10 times 15, all divided by 4, which gives me 75, that's a pi, 75 pi over 2 centimeters squared. So here then the shaded area is going to be 150 minus 75 pi divided by 2. Now, because I'm wanting that as a percentage, I then need to divide that by the original or the biggest area, which is 150, and then multiply that by 100. So here then what I've then got is a percentage value of around about 21.46 or 21.5 rounded to 1 decimal place. Then looking at question 10, it says that at a concert, 3 adult and 4 child tickets cost £23. 1 adult and 5 child tickets cost £15. Work out the cost of an adult ticket and the cost of a child ticket. So this is basically simultaneous equations. So what we want to do first is write the equation using algebra. So I've got 4c equals 23 and a plus 5c equals 15. So what I want to do is try and get either the C's the same or the A's the same. It doesn't really matter which one, but I would say in terms of efficiency, if we multiply the second equation by 5, we can, by 3, we can then get the same number of A's. So here what we've got is we're going to have 3A plus 15C equals and 45. And then we bring this equation down. We get 3a plus 4c equals 23. And then from this, what I can then do is subtract as the a's are the same. So they disappear. We get 11c equals, and it's going to be 22. So a child ticket costs £2. Then from using a plus 5c equals 15, we get a equals, well, if c equals 2, that's going to be 10. And so therefore a equals 5. And so in the answer box, the cost of an adult ticket is 5 and the cost of a child ticket is 2. Then looking at question 11, it says that a doctor claims that the probability of having a regular illness is doubled if you have poor sleep rather than a good sleep. In a survey, 16% of people with poor sleep had regular illness. Here are the results for people with good sleep. And it says comment on the doctor's claim, and you must show you're working out. So this is for 3 marks. So first of all, we've got to work out the percentage of this. So we've got 24 over 276, and that as a percentage is 8%. So if we double this, it equals 16%. And does that lie with what they're saying in terms of it being doubled? Yes, it does. So yes, the doctor is correct. 3 marks, I think that's a bit of a strange one, but again, you may get 1 mark for the 24 over 276, 1 mark for the 8%, and then 1 mark definitely for the latter comment. Then looking at question 12, it says that a teacher asked Amy and Jack to convert 101,346 into standard form. Amy writes 10.1346 times 10 to the power 4. Criticize Amy's answer. Well, for this, that the first number for the number being multiplied by the power of 10 should be between 1 and 10. So it's this area here, that number, a comment on that number there should be a number between 1 and 10 would be spot on. For question 12b, it says that Jack writes 1.1376 times 10 to the power minus 5. Criticize his answer. Well, again here, his error is that he's used a negative power. So the power of 10 should be positive, not negative. And again, for each of the two answers, would you get a mark if you just wrote down what it should be? So it should be 1.01376 times 10 to the power of 5. Would you get full marks if you just wrote down what it should be? Well, maybe, it depends on the mark scheme, but I would say yes, but you want to make sure that you're having two separate answers for that and they're highlighting where they've gone wrong. So looking at question 13, it says that at a concert, the ratio of men to women is 5:3. The ratio of women to children is 7:4. Show that more than half of the people at the concert are men. Now, with these types of questions, which is very, very popular, what you want to start to do is write down what the information has been given to you in the question. So we've got men to women is 5:3 and women to children is 7:4. Now, at this stage, what you want to try and do is make sure that whichever one is repeated is in the middle. It just makes it easier when you're comparing. Now, in terms of this, what we want to try and do is we want to try and get these two numbers the same. And what's the common multiple of 3 and 7? Well, it's going to be 21. So if I try and change those numbers to 21, then the number of children then becomes, well, 7 times 3 gives you 21. So 4 times 3 gives you 12. And to get from 3 to 21, you need to multiply by 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. Then from this, what I can then do is use these parts. So in terms of parts, we've got men equals 35, women equals 21, and children, which equals 12. Now in the question it says show that more than half the people are men. So here we've got a total of 68. I'll add them together. So the proportion of men equals 35 over 68, which is roughly around 0.51, and then blah blah blah, and 0.51 is greater than 0.5, so therefore we have proved it. Then moving on to question 14, it says use the quadratic formula to solve this quadratic equation. So straight into the quadratic formula. First of all, check and make sure it equals 0, which it does. So here we've got a equals 5, b equals 11, and c equals minus 2. Now in terms of the quadratic formula, remember it's minus b plus minus b squared minus 4ac all square rooted and all divided by 2a. So this is the formula that we are going to be using. Now for 3 marks, I would start by definitely substituting the numbers in as best as you can. So we've got minus 11 plus minus, and then we've got a bracket 11 squared minus 4 times a, which is 5, times minus 2, all square rooted, and all divided by 2 times 5. Now where this, before I go on to my calculator, I'll try and simplify this as possible, just to make substituting it into your calculator just that little bit easier. And so 4 times 5 is 20, times minus 2 is minus 40, all divided by 10. So then what I'm going to enter into my calculator is this. It's a lot easier, less likely to make a mistake. And then entering that to 2 decimal places, it's going to be minus 2.37 or 0.17. Then moving on to question 15, it says that a universal set contains the numbers of 1 to n. N is an even number greater than 100. And O is the set of odd numbers, P is the set of prime numbers, and S is the set of square numbers. Explain why there are no numbers that can be both P and S. Well, here, basically, you want to write something along the lines of, if you can write properly, that square numbers cannot be prime. And you can give some examples if you wanted to, but there you go. It then says how many numbers are there in that are either odd or prime. Well, for this, in terms of odd numbers, there's going to be n over 2. So the odd numbers are n over 2. But then you've also got, in terms of the prime, you've also got 1, which is a prime number that is not, all prime numbers are odd apart from 1, which is 2. So then it's going to be n 2n plus 1, because obviously for that even prime number. Then looking at question 16, it says that a calculator gives a value of pi equals as 3.14159. An approximation for pi is this fraction. It says so show that the value of the approximation is within 0.01% of the calculator value. So first things first, what you need to do is enter the value of that appears by substituting this approximation in your calculator, in which we get 3.141533339. Now what we then want to do is work out what the percentage difference between this number here and this number here is going to be. So from this, what I can then do is work out the difference. So it's going to be 3.14159 minus 3.141533339, all divided by 3.14159. And if I multiply that by 100, I get a value of 0.0018035777. And from that, in terms of comparing it as a percentage, that we can then see that 0.0018 is less than, than 0.01. So moving on to question 17, it says that the region R satisfies the 3 inequalities, and what we need to do is we need to map these inequalities. So what we need to do is to actually plot these lines. So for this one, I need to plot x equals, let me just get that corrected. So for this one, we need to plot x equals minus 3, and we want to the left, to the right of that line. For this one, it's going to be a dag, so we've got to plot x plus y equals 2, and we want below the line. And for this one, we've got y equals a half x minus 1, and we want above this line. So what we need to do is actually plot these plot these equations. So for the first one, let me just start by plotting that in yellow. And so this is going to be a dashed line. This is going to be a solid line, and this also needs to be a solid line. So in terms of x is equal to minus 3, well, if I just look at my graph, and again, I should be doing this with a ruler, but it's going to be a vertical line through minus 3. Again, making sure that it is dashed as best that you can. Now, in terms of this second equation, so let me just put little 2 next to it. Let's put number 1 next to this. And so from this, and I want this side of the graph. Now, in terms of number 2, so we've got x plus y equals 2. Now, the best way of plotting these is basically when x equals 0, y equals 2. And when y equals 0, x equals 2. So 2 coordinates here we've got are 0, 2 and 2, 0. So if I plot those coordinates, so 0, 2 is there, 2, 0 is here, and then we just want to dash that line there. So if I just connect these up, and it's also a solid line, so let's actually use, let's use a ruler for this. So let me just join them up. And then let's just extend that line. Like so. And then for the next one, which is y equals a half x, and is it minus 1? It is minus 1. So again, what I want to do is just pick 2 nice coordinates. So as we're dividing x by a half, I'm going to say when x equals 0, which is always a common one. So when x equals 0, y is going to equal minus 1. So there's my 1 coordinate. So 0 minus 1 is here. And then when x equals 2, So 2 times a half is 1, take away 1, y equals 0. So when x equals 2, so it's going to be here. And then what I then want to do is just draw a solid line through those 2 coordinates. So let me just start by doing just that. And we should end up with something that looks like this. Now the region R is usually the bit that's encaptured, so this is my region R, and if you wanted to shade it, then that's fine. And there is our final answer. For question 18, it says rearrange, and we want to make D the subject. So for this, we can see 2D. So start off by sticking some brackets around the denominator. So we've got C equals 4 minus D over D plus 3. We take this over to the side, so we end up with C equals D plus 3 equals 4 minus D. Expand the bracket, so we get CD plus 3C equals 4 minus D. Then you want to group all your D's together. So we've got CD plus D equals 4 minus 3C. We then factorize with regards to D, so I get C plus 1 equals 4 minus 3C, and then we take this bracket over to the side, so we get D equals 4 minus 3C, all divided by C plus 1. Then for question 19, it says which of these points is not 5 units from 0, 0. So again, it's using Pythagoras in terms of Pythagoras triples, or just you can do a sketch, but the correct answer you should have is 1, 4. Then with question 20, it says that the square of x is 7, circle the value of x cubed. So for this, all we need to do is recognize what they all are talking about. So here, x equals the square of x, which is 7. So 7 squared equals 7. So x equals the square root of 7, and then x cubed is going to be root 7 times root 7 times root 7. So this becomes root 79 times root 7, which then becomes 7 root 7. So it's our fourth option. Then with question 21, it says w, x and y are 3 integers. W is 2 less than x and y is 2 more than x. Prove that wy plus 4 equals x squared. Now for this, what we need to do is just translate what these two statements mean. So here you're not going for what they both are, but you want to try and keep them balanced. So here we know that w is 2 less than x. So then what I then need to do, so here, so to work out w, that's going to be x minus 2. Then here for y to equal x, I need to have y, I need to add 2. So that's going to be x plus 2. For them to balance. Now what we're then going to do is use these to work out what we're actually talking about. So here, in terms of this, if I substitute these into wy plus 4, what we want to do is going to show that it simplifies to give you x squared. So here wy plus 4 is going to equal x minus 2 x plus 2 plus 4. Now you may be able to spot by expanding this out that this is a difference of 2 squares, so that's going to simplify to be x squared minus 4 plus 4, which equals x squared. So therefore wy plus 4 equals x squared. So looking at question 22, it says that ACB is a straight line. A is at the point of 0, 8, and B is at the point of 4, 0. C is the midpoint of AB, and the line DCE is perpendicular to the line ACB. And the question is asking us to work out the equation of the line DCE. Now, to work out the equation of a line, you need to know the gradient and you need to know the y-intercept. So let's first of all start with the gradient. So here we can work out the gradient of AB, and this coordinate here is 0, 8, and this coordinate here is 4, 0. So what we want to do is work out the difference between this. So this is 8, this is 4, and because the line is going downwards, it's going to be 8 over 4 minus, which is minus 2. So therefore then, as the line DCE is perpendicular, so the gradient of CE, let's call it, is going to be -1 over the gradient that is perpendicular to, which in this case is -2, which gives me a gradient of 1/2. Now the next thing we then need to do is work out the coordinate of C. Now C is the midpoint. So to work out the midpoint between two coordinates of 0, 8 and 4, 0, what we then need to do is add the two x ordinates. So we've got 0 plus 4 and divide it by 2. Don't want to put a bracket there, so let's just get rid of that. And the midpoint between the y ordinates, so we add the two y ordinates, so we've got 8 plus 0 divided by 2, and that gives me a value of 4 divided by 2, which is 2, and 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So there is my coordinate of C. Now from this, what you then want to do is you can either use y equals mx plus c, where you've got, and we need to find c first. So here we've got y equals a y ordinate of c, which is 4, x equals the x ordinate, which is 2, and m equals 1/2. So substituting this in, what do we get? Well, we get 4 equals 1/2 times 2 plus c. So then from this, what do we get? Well, we get 4 equals 1 plus c, so c equals 3. So the equation of the line then is going to be, so equation of DCE is, or DE, don't want to put that, let's get rid of that. So DCE is going to be equal to y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Now another alternative method you could use is use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Now the variables for this is m equals 1/2, x1 equals 2, and y1 equals 4. And if you substitute the values in, what do we get? Well, we get y minus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 2. And if you expand the brackets out, we get y minus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 1. Take the 4 over, and you end up with the exact same answer. So either which method you use, once you've got the gradient and the coordinates of C, it doesn't really matter as long as you get the equation. And again, if you wanted to, you could have, if you've been taught to try and get rid of the half, you could have 2y equals x plus 6. That's exactly the same, but again, different variations. As long as it simplifies to give you y equals 1/2 x plus 3, it's all good. Then moving on to question 23, it says that Colonel is using trigonometry to work out the size of angle x. He assumes that the angle ABC is right angle. In fact, that the angle is ABC is 85. To what effect if his assumption of is on the accuracy of the answer? You must show you're working out. So what we need to do is, for solution 1, we need to treat ABC as 90 degrees. And then for another solution, what we then need to do is, so the solution is then treat ABC as 85 degrees. Now this first one is going to involve SOHCAHTOA trig. And this second one, as we know, this angle here, it's going to involve the sine rule, which is kind of makes sense depending, as you can see from the position of this question in the exam paper. So looking at where if ABC is 90 degrees, then what do we get? Well, we get sine x equals 6 over 10. So x equals the inverse sine of 6 over 10, which gives me an answer of 36.8698. Then, let me just put a little number 1 there. So for number 2, if ABC was 85 degrees, and again, as I mentioned, we need to use the sine rule, so it's going to be 6 over sine x equals 10 over sine 85. Now I wrote 68 for, so let's get rid of that. 85. Then if I do some cross multiplying, as I get 6 sine 85 equals 10 sine x, then sine x equals 6 sine 85 over 10, so x equals the inverse sine of 6 sine 85 over 10, so x gives me an answer of 36.706. Now in terms of this, what you then want to do is compare these two answers. So as you can see, in terms of the conclusion, we can see that his answer gives a slightly higher value for X. Now for 3 marks, I think that's a pretty stingy question, but hey ho. Now for question 24, it says ACD is a straight line, and it's given us our vectors, and the question is asking us to work out the vector of A to B. So for this, to get from A to B, the route that we're going to choose, or I'm going to choose, is A to E plus E to B. Now A to E is A plus 3B, and E to B is going to be minus A plus B, and if we simplify all of that, we get an answer of 4B. Then for question 24, it says that also ED equals a third of AE and DC equals minus a third A. Prove that EC is parallel to AB. Now in terms of proving whether lines are parallel, basically what you want to show is that EC and AB are a factor or multiple of each other. So what we need to do first is find out what these two lengths are going to be. So for this, what we need to do first is that E to D, let's find that first, is going to be a third of A plus 3B, which equals A over 3 plus B. Now you could write it as a third A plus B, so that's absolutely fine. And then E to C is going to be therefore a third A plus B minus a third A, which equals B. So then from this, what we've got is then as 4EC equals AB, AB is parallel to EC. And you want to make sure that you are writing those statements. So it's really important that you do write this and you write down your statement, and then also include your working out and calculations for ED and EC. Then moving on to question 25, it says that the time of each swing of a pendulum, length L, and it is T seconds. T is directly proportional to the square root of L. When L is 64, T equals 1.6. And we want to work out the value of T when L equals 132.25. So first things first, what you want to do is convert this statement using the correct math notation. So T is directly proportional to the square root of L. Then we replace the proportional symbol with equals KL, root L. And then when L equals 64, T equals 1.6. So we're going to substitute those numbers in to find out what K is. So what do we get? Well, we get 1.6 equals 8K. So because obviously square root of 64 equals 8. And then from this we get K equals 1.6 divided by 8, give me a K value of 0.2. So the general formula of this is going to be T equals 0.2 the square root of L. So then what I then need to do is then substitute L. So when L equals 132.25, T equals 0.2 times the square root of 132.25. If I type that all into my calculator, I should get an answer of 2.3. The next question then says that the graph with the equation of y equals x squared is translated by the vector of 2, 0. Circle the equation of the translated graph. So for this, when you are moving it 2 to the right, you need to take away 2 from the x. So the correct answer is going to be our first option. Then looking at question 27, it says here is a sketch of a speed time graph as part of a journey. The average speed from 0 to t seconds was 7.2. Work out the value of t. So for this, what we need to do first is start by labeling each of these sections as A, B and C. Now in terms of this, what we need to do is then work out the dimensions of each of these shapes. So here we've got the area of A, which is a triangle. Now the triangle has got a height of 9 and a base of 8, and I can tell that from the coordinates. So it's going to be 8 times 9 divided by 2, which gives me an answer of 36. Now the area of B is a rectangle, and it's going to be the base of times the height, and the height is 9. So it's going to be 9 times, and then the base is the difference between 14 and 8, which is 6. So it's 8 times 6, which gives me an answer of, 8 times 9, 6 times 9 rather, which is 54. Now in terms of C, this is where it looks like what it is, a trapezium. So the area of C is a trapezium. So what I need to do is work out the height and the base of this difference. Now this distance here, which is the height, is going to be T minus 14, and that represents H. Now in terms of what this height here is, well, that's going to be 7, and this height here is 9. So the area of C is going to be the two parallel sides, so it's 7 plus 9 multiplied by the H, which is T minus 14, all divided by 2, and that's going to equal X. Now from this, what we've then got is that adding all those areas up, we get that the total average speed was 7.2. So then what we've then got is, if I just neaten this one up, so let's have a look at this. So we've got 7 plus 9, which is 16, T minus 14 divided by 2, which gives me an answer of 8T minus 14. So from this, what we've then got, if I just collate all of these things together, I get 36 plus 54 plus 8 lots of T minus 14 equals, and it's going to be in terms of the distance, which is what I'm working out. So this is the total distance. And to work out distance of what the other side should be, well, that's going to be 7.2 times T, because it's taken T seconds. So this is basically speed times time. So these two things have got to be equal to each other. So if I then simplify this left-hand side, well, what do I get? Well, I get 36 plus 54, which is 90. So I get 90 plus 8T minus 8 times 14, which is 112, equals 7.2T. So 90 minus 112 is minus 22. So I get 8T minus 22 equals 7.2T. So then here, 8T minus 7.2T equals 22. This then becomes 0.8T equals 22. So T equals 22 over 0.8, and 22 divided by 0.8 gives me an answer of 55 over 2, or 27.5 seconds. Then moving on to our last question, it says for all values of x, f of x equals 4x minus 3 divided by 5, and we want to work out the inverse function. Now again, in terms of the 3 steps, we want to make this equation equal to y, or the function equal to y rather. And then what I then want to do is rearrange to make y this x the subject. So here I've got y, 5y equals 4x minus 3, 5y plus 3 equals 4x, and then here I've got x equals 5y plus 3 divided by 4. And then from this, what I then want to do is replace the x with the inverse function of x, and replace the y with x. So I get 5x plus 3 all divided by 4, and that is my final answer and the end of this paper. Now we'll put some suggested grade boundaries for this individual paper, but also the collated sum of all 3 papers, so you can see what grade you would have attained by doing these papers.